And I learn, do my Dreamliner, I do my mobility, and then my morning routine's done, and then I get ready for my first call. There will be no more falling down the rabbit hole for me first thing in the morning, derailing my consciousness because I have a book picked out the night before, boom, right there by the couch side.
You're a happy dog. You're way more excited to get after and crank when you are on the clock, for lack of better words, when the shop is open. And you're even more excited to shut it down so that you and I can have 100% no distraction quality time where we can connect and not at like a 20%. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today, we have an episode for you. Episode 151, why you might be feeling a little disconnected. So before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and working with 54 podcasters, 65 if you include group coaching. Thank you, Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others. If you are out there and you want to start a podcast, grow a podcast, monetize a podcast, reach out to myself or Kevin. My contact information will be in the show notes. Information will be in the show notes. Before we jump into this episode, as always, ladies first, sweetheart, what is your intention for today?
My intention for our listeners is to help them recognize how much their devices are actually disconnecting them. And this is honestly not going to be anything new per se, but I do know that this episode is going to do its justice in what we all need to hear and help create a path forward to further connection rather than the path of disconnection, which if we're not conscious of this, we're all on.
So the 21st century is the noisiest it's ever been. I think this household has 26 devices.
Definitely more than that.
Yeah, it's fair. It was 26 last I checked, which was probably a year ago. So Emilia and I have an improvement that we made in our house, kudos to her, that we are super, super excited for in 2025. So we used to get up in the morning and we would use our alarm clocks would be our phones. And this was a while back. This is probably 3 years ago. Probably a year or two ago, we decided to put our devices charging, the chargers for our devices, on the other side of the house. So there was a separation between the bedroom and devices. This year in 2025, coming up here, we actually separated devices being upstairs. So we have a device charging station in the nook. So upstairs, there's my office and Emilia's office, and there's a little place, a hallway in between, we call the nook. And in the nook, there's now the charging station. It was Emilia's idea to bring the charging station upstairs. And it has 4 chargers, and it's basically when Emilia and I are done working, usually around 7 o'clock or so, we close the store, so to speak, metaphorically, and we put our devices on there, and we try our best not to touch them again. Now, if we go to the gym, obviously we're using our phones for music. But at the end of the day, the reason we created this episode is because Emilia and I were on a walk and we were talking about what we wanted to talk about. And we think that devices are wildly distracting and they're affecting people because Emilia and I, our device hygiene is actually very high, all things considered. We're very careful about when we're around each other, we're very careful about making sure that we are present with one another, both cognitively, emotionally, and all of that. And I had 2 clients over the last month and a half reach out to me and say these words. I'm so proud of myself. I just deleted all the games from my phone. And the reason they're so proud of themselves is because they've been distracting themselves constantly with these video games on their phone. And so for anyone out there watching or listening, this is affecting your relationship more than you realize, because it's not until after you and I moved the device chargers upstairs that I realized, even you and I who are already pretty good at this, all things considered, it's a huge improvement in terms of you and I's emotional connection as of late. And again, by the way, I want to give this to the listeners as well. Emilia and I do have to jump in 16 minutes, so we're here for you. But I just want everyone to know that if we are talking a little quickly, it's because we both have full schedules, but we're grateful to be here.
We are grateful to be here. So nowadays, right, the interconnection between devices is highest than it's ever been, right? We turn towards our devices for not only connection, now more than we ever have, right? You have your DMs, you have your texts, you have phone calls, you have FaceTime, you have emails, you have social media, all of this, but you also turn towards it for the large majority of us, it is entertainment. So picture your Netflix, your YouTube, whatever education maybe you might be going through, or scrolling past. But a large majority of us are also experiencing this hyper connection to, and there's actually a terminology that is clinically produced now called brain rot, which is just turning towards your device to numb and disassociate from life. And
it's called brain rot?
Yeah, it's called brain rot.
There's also something called Digiphrenia, which is being addicted to your digital devices.
Yeah, so we're addicted to these devices because of the fact that we turn towards it without any impulse control or discipline around turning towards something else to cope with life, to numb out, to distract ourselves, to connect to ourselves, right? So there's so many different elements that are at play that we're constantly trying to fight. And then when it comes to our intimate relationships, it's usually also a tool to connect, right? For example, you and I have a shared couple that we know and that we've coached who are doing what they said they would never do, which is a long-term distance relationship. And the only way that they can do that is because of the fact that they have devices and they can, call each other up, or they can text each other across the world, FaceTime each other, anything. So while technology is so incredible and I'm such an advocate for it, it also can be not the tool that we inherently buy it for. It becomes something that we end up a slave to if we're not super mindful of how pervasive it is in terms of our use without any impulse control. So when you're sitting maybe on the couch and you're done with your day, and all of a sudden you and your partner are turning towards one another for those opportunities to connect, and one of you is numbing out through catching up with sports on YouTube, or the other one is catching up with friends on social media, or just scrolling and rotting your brain, for lack of better words, that's time that you and your partner could turn towards one another to actually connect and be emotionally present. And we don't realize how much this is actually negatively impacting us. And we experience it firsthand. Now, obviously, you and I work from home, so we have many boundaries and rules that we've had to implement that people who don't work from home maybe don't have to. However, the rule of thumb is the same. There's opportunities where you and your partner could be connecting. Keyword could be. But the choice, for whatever reason, is you're choosing a device over your partner. And that's kind of what is at the crux of this whole episode. If you are choosing your device again and again and again for whatever reason, right? And again, this is not a blame or shame game. This is just being able to identify what is disconnecting you and your partner. If you're choosing your device over your partner when there's that beautiful time to connect, that is disconnecting. And that is disconnecting you more than you can even realize it. So it's something that, like I said at the very beginning, we all know this intellectually and cognitively, yet I don't think that there's as much content that needs to be placed around this in terms of tactile boundaries and reinforcing the narrative of being mindful of our usage.
Well, the one thing that I think is happening in the world is content creators are not talking about this because they are content creators. So they want you to be on the device.
Right.
Emilia and I want your relationship to flourish. This is a podcast that, can be entertaining, but it's more for education. We're here to give you a deeper understanding of yourself and your partner and your relationship so that you can flourish, grow together, not apart. And one of the things that's been very clear to me, you and I put our devices on the charger before 7:30 last night. So from 7:30 until we went to bed, there was no devices. There's a separation between you and I and our devices, between upstairs and downstairs, and it's a game changer. We went on a walk together. It's really a game changer. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you, Emilia, about on this show for everybody is we want you to sit down with your partner and say, what is the biggest distraction, the biggest thing on your device that is pulling you down the rabbit hole, for lack of better phrasing. We were on a Relationship Talks virtual event, and one of the husbands that we've worked with in the past said it was politics. I kept watching politics. I was addicted to these shows about politics. And it's not like back in the day. I remember when I was a kid, there were, 70 channels. Now there's 700, and they're all on your phone. And again, that's a metaphor. It's obviously not channels, but Netflix, all of this. So how do we be more intentional with this, and how do we set boundaries? And Emilia and I, whenever we're sharing space, if one of us has our AirPods in, because for us it's books. I'm always want to be learning. When I'm cleaning the house, doing dishes, kitchen, cooking, whatever it is, I'm always trying to learn. And when Emilia comes downstairs and I have my AirPods in, I'll take them out. Not always. Sometimes she'll say, hey, can we be present?
Can we share space?
Can we share space? That's the exact verbiage. And when she says that, I know that that's the cue of, okay, she wants to be together now and connect.
I'm bidding for connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, the thing, I'm looking at 2024, and Emilia was too, and we asked ourselves before this episode, what was the biggest distraction in 2024? And I'm going to show some of how pissed off I am at myself. In 2024, I need to share this. In 2024, I wasted so much, pardon my French for anyone who has kids in the room, so much fucking time searching for content on the internet that's valuable. And I fell down so much hot garbage. And so I like to learn first thing in the morning. It's part of my morning routine. I adore it. My favorite thing ever. And I'm such a fulfilled human being when I have a really good thing to learn. So right now I'm reading something. It's a workshop called Focus, Achieving Your Highest Priorities. You can tell I talked to you about it last night. I'm lit up like a Christmas tree. It's so good.
Happiest duck.
Happiest duck.
Hi, my name is Jason Blackstock, and this is my wife, Lisa. We got connected with Alan and Emilia a few months ago through friends. We were trying to look for ways to strengthen our relationship.
And right away, we just noticed with Alan and Emilia how they made us feel so calm, and like everything that they did with us was gentle, and it felt so like we could let our guard down right away. And that was something that allowed us to open up and just get closer so quickly. So
yeah, I felt it was very easy to connect with them, and their intuition for our situation was very surprising to me. Both past and present, they just knew us.
Yeah, they picked up on things that we didn't even think they would. They just, even in our mannerisms and the way we would look at each other at certain points in the conversation, it was just really cool to feel like they understood us. And it really gave us all the tools that we needed to work on us when we weren't talking directly to them. So we had like homework to do and things to work on, and it really elevated our relationship in big ways. And I think we're both really excited to keep working with Alan and Emilia, because you're never done working on your relationship. And I just feel like that is, if we're good, then the rest of our world is good with our children and our 4 kids. So
yeah, we're very grateful that we met Alan and Emilia and are looking forward to the future.
Now, imagine me. I wake up in the morning and I want to learn. I love to learn first thing in the morning. My brain's on fire. I need to feed my brain. And I go on YouTube and I'm looking for a TED Talk to listen to. And half these TED Talks are not good. I need to find the right topic. I need to find the right speaker. I need to go through 3 or 4 of them in order to get to a good one. And I end up stumbling across a Gladiator 2 interview with the actors. Emilia and I had seen Gladiator 2 a couple weekends ago. I loved the film. I'll just watch one. I'm going to just watch one interview of these actors. Is it interesting? Okay, let's see how this goes. I remember one morning I spent an hour and a half just listening to interviews about the making of this film. And yes, I enjoyed it. Okay, I did enjoy it. However, I was upset with myself because I could have learned something valuable for that hour and a half. And so for me, YouTube in 2024 was my biggest freaking distraction, because I would go on there looking for content to learn, when in reality I need to pick a book in advance, have it by my couch side. So I walk out of the bedroom. There's a book picked. It's called The Productivity Project by Chris Bailey. I've been doing this the last week. It's worked unbelievably well. My device is still upstairs, and I learn, do my Dreamliner, I do my mobility, and then my morning routine's done, and then I get ready for my first call. There will be no more falling down the rabbit hole for me first thing in the morning, derailing my consciousness, because I have a book picked out the night before. Boom, right there by the couch side.
And that is a great example of how these devices will disconnect us, because you might have not necessarily heard in that Alan talking about how that actually impacted our relationship, but that is a need that Alan tries to meet every single morning. And when that need is not met or not fulfilled, he is a prickly pear. He is a grumpy gills, and it affects his mood. Just like anyone else, when you don't have a need being met, it impacts your mood, and it put him in a negative state. And I can say this firsthand. He was not like, I wouldn't want to necessarily be around him because he was prickly pear or grumpy gills when he didn't get his learning in. He would be noticeably upset. And the F-bomb that was dropped in that intensity, that would be the noticeable energy that he would start his day with. And so that would leak into our relationship, obviously.
And I want to make this clear. This was not that bad.
No, but I think it's important for me to share.
That day with the hour and a half, that was unacceptable. That was when it tipped the scale, and I was just so furious.
Yeah, but it impacts us because, like, for example, if I was walking by and you were in that mood, you'd be less open to bids of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with me. For example, the thing that we identified before is WhatsApp. I'm at the end of my day, I'm closing out my day. I always try to send a message to clients via WhatsApp. And so that ends up eating my time. What I say to Alan as I'm closing down shop will be 2 minutes, ends up being 10. And then I feel guilty. I feel in shame for not setting a realistic expectation, for not harnessing my own discipline. And that puts me in a mood and in a state that then trickles over into our relationship.
And one of the things that's so hard about that is when you WhatsApp, sometimes you get a conversation going.
Well, people respond right away, which I appreciate.
They respond very quickly.
But
yes, and that's exactly what it is too. So it's not 2 minutes.
Mm-mm.
It's the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes falling down the rabbit hole. That's what the rabbit hole metaphor is you fall down and it sweeps you up. It's like when you're swimming in the ocean and you get pulled underneath the water by the undertow. Because I would go harmless. I just want to find a TED Talk about effective communication. And all of a sudden the riptide comes out and I'm out to sea. And then Emilia has to exactly. And again, we're being playful with this, and honestly I don't think it was ever that bad, all things considered. However, it is affecting us more than we want to admit. And having the devices upstairs has been life-changing. And we only did this a week ago?
Yeah. And well, here's the thing. It's the small insidious things that have a compound effect that eventually it's like you'll sweep it underneath the rug because it's not big enough, right? Like you and I are going. So it's not like hey, during check-ins, like that's going to come up. Like, I think you have a really big issue when it comes to your devices. Like that's not going to come up because it's microbial. However, that microbial will compound after decades and years of, or in this case, weeks of like, you're kind of grumpy gills after you don't find your learning stuff, right? Like those things will come up, but it's because of the fact that it's tiny every single day. And we don't give the credit where it's due to the impact of these devices and how they really are disconnecting us.
So what have you observed now that I'm doing the book first thing in the morning? My morning routine is on point.
You're a happy duck.
Yeah.
You're a happy duck. You're way more excited to get after and crank when you are on the clock, for lack of better words, when the shop is open, and you're even more excited to shut it down so that you and I can have 100% no distraction quality time where we can connect and not at like a 20%. That's what I've observed.
Okay, so we have we're going to wrap up here. So everyone sit down with your partner or with yourself and ask yourself, okay, 2024, what was my biggest distraction? What was the rabbit hole that I kept falling down? For some people, it's Instagram. Some people, it's phone games on your phone. Some people, it's interviews of their favorite film. Whatever it is. YouTube's a big one.
Pinterest.
A lot of people. Pinterest, maybe, right? Instagram scrolling, shopping. Yeah, so for me, it was YouTube learning turning into not YouTube learning. And for Emilia, it's connecting with clients specifically on WhatsApp, starting conversations that end up rolling past her boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk about this, sit down, ask your partner the same thing, reflect, and then decide in 2025, okay, what are we going to do about this? For Emilia and I, we decided to set this boundary, and it's been nothing short of life-changing. And I can tell it's one of those changes that's going to ripple into our relationship forever.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited tonight. So we're going to the gym tonight. So I'm going to need to bring my phone to the gym, obviously. But when we close down tonight, I can't wait to put my devices on the charger, go downstairs, be present, have that little transition period.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wake up in the morning to a fresh book.
It's awesome.
Every single morning. It's super awesome. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
I've seen, that's a physical boundary that you and I have set. I've seen digital boundaries where there's apps that will literally lock you out unless you do specific push-ups, and like your screen or your camera will record that. And then only if you've met a specific type of push-ups will it unlock. So there's so many different types of boundaries that could be put in place for you to just dip your toe in, right? It's not an all or nothing. Don't go all in and I'm going to get rid of everything, because that's just totally unrealistic, especially because there is a level of addiction that is here in this generation. And I think that it's hard for us to admit that, but that is more the case than we want to believe. So that's the only thing that I'll add. Other than that, I want to invite everyone to our next Relationship Talks event. This is going to be event number 43, how to be more courageous with your partner. So Alan and I have been extremely courageous in our relationship. And it has been one of the things, if we were to pull that away, we would not be where we are today. And that is one of the elements, courageous communication, that we often extend in Relationship Talks coaching, that you'd be wildly amazed how when you actually have the courage to be your most true, authentic self, how your partner can show up for you. And so that is a fundamental aspect when it comes to relationships growing together as opposed to apart. So we want to invite you. The link will be in the show notes to register.
And it took courage for Emilia to even bring up this idea, because I remember when she first wanted to put the devices not in the bedroom, that took courage to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Then to bring the device station upstairs instead of downstairs, that also took courage to bring up, because what if I didn't want to do that? And so these improvements they take so much courage, because you're afraid, is my partner not going to be on board? Am I going to be cagey to them? Are they addicted to their device but don't want to admit it? Am I going to be seen as the pain in the ass that's trying to force them to be a certain way? So courage is super, super important. Also, if you want to book a free Relationship Talks coaching session, it's me and Emilia plus you and your partner, or just you. The first one is free. We used to start this 4 years ago. We started doing something called Service Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And at 10 a.m. every single Saturday, we booked a free half an hour. I think back then it was an hour, with individuals from all over the world, helping them flourish in their intimate relationships. Emilia and I were on these microphones, and we have value to deliver, and we got to make sure that it's of value. We got to make sure we communicate effectively, all that stuff. Behind the scenes, we are flourishing happy ducks, laughing our asses off. It is unbelievable. It is beyond my wildest dreams.
It's a lot of fun.
And what you're seeing here is a very professional version of us, and that's good, and that's for a reason. But if you want to flourish and really be deeply connected and super fulfilled and madly in love, we know how to help you do that. So Relationship Talks coaching, the link to the first one's free, will be in the show notes, and we hope that you book. Anything you want to add before we go, love?
I appreciate you honoring our time.
You're so very welcome. Of course, my love. As a matter of fact, we still have 6 minutes to spare, so I'll stay. Yeah, let's mess it up. Let's screw this up.
Okay.
What else do we want to talk about? No, but thank you all for listening. As always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is Lazaros88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.